Now my portfolio has been on an absolute tear since I started recording this journey on YouTube, up from around 85,000 to almost 150,000 at the end of December. Unfortunately, the good luck came to an end this month. It was an absolute bloodbath in my portfolio, but I'll share the numbers with you in this video. So hi there, if you're new, my name is Chaz and I go by the name of the Risk On Investor here on YouTube. I'm using this channel to document my journey to building a £1 million investment portfolio. Now if you've been watching my previous videos, you'll know that I also recently quit my job, so I'm not only trying to build a massive portfolio, but I've also got a big shortfall in my monthly income that I need to make up. So you'll be seeing a lot more videos like my sports betting video, which you can watch here, where I try and make some extra money on the side. I've got a couple more of those planned, so keep an eye out for those. If this is the kind of content you think you'd be interested in, hit the subscribe button down below or join the newsletter, again, link in the description below, so that you can stay up to date with the portfolio and get my thoughts on the economic news of the week. So let's jump straight into the numbers. Now, if you watched last month's update, you'll know that there's 4 main areas that I keep track of for my portfolio. So my portfolio excludes my house, so this is more my invested net worth, although I do include my cash holdings as part of that, because I include that as part of my liquid portfolio. So the 4 main areas that I look at is 1, the pensions, 2, stocks and shares ISA, which here in the UK is a nice tax advantaged account. Number 3 is the cash holdings, and number 4 is my crypto holdings. So between those 4, they make up my investment portfolio. So if we jump straight in and start looking at the pension. Now the pension is the single biggest block of investments in my portfolio, so I tend to start there because it has the biggest impact on my month-to-month outcomes. Now last month, my total pension value stood at £70,396.28. And you'll see from this month it's fallen to £54,001.63. That's a £16,394.65 fall. So it's a pretty grim one this month, almost £16,500 down on the pension. This money is locked away, it's a really long-term investment, so fluctuations here and there I'm not too concerned about. Now my pension is invested in 2 different places. I've got my workplace pension, which is really small, and the value of that account rose from £3,133.70 to £3,275. Now my workplace pension is pretty much all just tied up in a global large cap portfolio. Now the workplace pension is with a company called Standard Life, and to be honest, I'm not that impressed with the selection of funds they have, which is why you'll see the bulk of my pension investments are transferred out to a SIPP. Now I hold my SIPP with AJ Bell. The reason for that is because the platform fees are really cheap, and the fact that I'm not regularly contributing to it means that there's not monthly ongoing charges in dealing fees for me to stump up for. So that makes it a really cheap option for holding my pension at the moment. There's also a massive selection of things that you can invest in on the AJ Bell platform, and I've been really impressed with that. So what does the AJ Bell portion of my pension look like? Well, unfortunately that portion of my pension is where the big hit was taken. It fell from £67,262.58 to £50,726.63. So that's pretty much all where that £16,500 fall came from. And I'll talk about why that is a little bit later, because it's tied up with my stocks and shares ISA as well. Now the next section of my portfolio that I keep track of is the cash portion of my portfolio. So that covers both my day-to-day expenses. So that's money I hold generally in like current accounts and savings accounts. This is money that could be deployed into the markets if I need to, but generally is just there for my day-to-day expenses. Now the cash portion of my portfolio fell again dramatically this month. It fell from £15,101.27 to £8,176.88. So that's almost a £7,000 drop in my cash portfolio. Now, if you saw last month's update, you'll know that that was kind of to be expected. I'm expecting my cash portfolio to gradually decline month on month. And the reason for that is because I don't have a job at the moment, so I'm eating into those savings. The reason it was so high last month is because I'd taken some profits out of my crypto and bought that into cash. And again, when we go over the stocks and shares ISA, you'll see where that cash has gone. Now, it was actually really helpful that I had that cash buffer on hand because it was a bit of a rough month with some unexpected costs. Now, towards the end of December, I noticed there was a leak in my roof, and we had a few people come out and look. A guy tried to patch it up, and unfortunately it was unsuccessful, so we had to have the whole of the rear portion of our roof replaced, and that was definitely an unexpected expense. Unfortunately, it's not covered as part of the insurance, so I had to fork out for that cash from my hand. And that came to around £2,000 in unexpected expenses. And then, just to compound on that, the car went wrong this month. Ugh. And generally the car's been really good for us. It's had a few repairs here and there, but this was the first real major repair that we had to do. And that set us back around £950 this month. So between those two items, we had around £3,000 of unexpected expenses. Now add to that my monthly drawing into my savings because I don't have a job, which is around £1,000 a month. That was about £4,000 of that cash shortfall accounted for just in those events. Now you will have noticed that the actual change in the cash value was closer to £7,000. So where did the £3,000 go? Well, that went into my stocks and shares ISA. The value of my stocks and shares ISA rose from £6,577.60 to £13,357.0. So that's a £6,799.47 increase. The actual underlying holdings in my stocks and shares ISA is pretty much identical to my SIP, and you'll notice that my SIP took an absolute beating this month, down around 20%. The holdings at the beginning of the month took an early beating at the beginning of the month, but fortunately most of the money that I was investing I was starting to put in as that fall was happening, so I've been starting to buy as the price was going down. Now that does mean that I'm still in the negative for my stocks and shares ISA this month. So from this screenshot you can see I'm down about £1,500 this month. But my stocks and shares ISA is invested in incredibly risky things. If you followed me for a little while, you'll know I have this thesis that over the next couple of years crypto is going to do really well. And unfortunately there isn't many places you can invest in crypto in the UK without holding the underlying crypto itself. So both my SIP and my stocks and shares ISA is very heavily invested in a company called MicroStrategy. Now, if you don't know anything about them, you don't really need to know that much about their actual software business, but a huge valuation of their company comes from the Bitcoin holdings that they hold underlying. So as the price of Bitcoin increases, so does the value of MicroStrategy shares. Now, at the beginning of the month, MicroStrategy was trading at a premium of about 20% according to my calculations. And that's because people wanted exposure to Bitcoin because there was no other real vehicles to do that. But with the launch of some Bitcoin ETFs at the beginning of the month, there's now a much easier way for US investors, which is the largest capital market, to get a more direct exposure to Bitcoin without the risk of the MicroStrategy company layer on top. So that started a massive sell-off of MicroStrategy, and by my calculations, MicroStrategy is now within about 2% of what I consider its fair value, and so I'm pricing that based on its book value. So we should have seen the worst of the sell-off of that, unless of course Bitcoin starts to dramatically drop as the underlying holding. Now you'll notice that my stocks and shares ISA is split into two sections. There's the MicroStrategy holding, but then there's something that you can't quite see in this screenshot because it's cut off, but that's a leveraged ETF version of MicroStrategy. Now call me crazy because I'm taking something very volatile and adding a bit of leverage on top, but long term I really think this could be a good small holding to have. Now this isn't the place to discuss leveraged ETFs, but you should be aware that there's significant risk in holding them, especially because most of them readjust their leverage on a daily basis. So that means you can compound the benefits, but you can also compound the negatives. And so finally, there's the crypto holdings. So my crypto holdings fell from £53,276.80 to £48,888 on the dot. That's a fall of £4,388.80. Now the crypto holdings are actually pretty much flat on the underlying. The reason there's been a drop is because I did a bit more profit taking. So again, you'll know that my largest crypto holding is a crypto called Ethereum, and that had a massive run at the beginning of the month, and so I sold into that run as it went up. And the spare cash from that got invested into my stocks and shares ISA, which is why the stocks and shares ISA is up so much in nominal value, considering the fall in the underlying assets. So that means the total investment portfolio is just shy of £125,000. That's around £20,000 down on last month, but that's still comfortably above the 100k, which is really nice to see. It also means that since I started tracking this journey around November of last year, I'm still up around 47%, which is excellent, but it is a really high risk strategy that I'm taking. And so excluding the cash portion of my investments, I'm at around 11.6% of my total £1 million investment goal. Now it's nice to be still above the 10% mark on that, and most of my thesis still hasn't played out, so I'm really looking forward to the next couple of years, but unfortunately I'm not going to have much cash to invest in it because of my work situation at the moment. Now I am trying to use my time that I now have to try and explore different side incomes that I can do. So you'll see I had some good success with the sports betting, which I made a video on, which you can see here. And there's also a couple of things that I'm trying out at the moment in the background, which I'm hoping to post some videos about in the coming weeks and months. So if any of that interests you, it'd be great to have you along for the ride. Please hit subscribe to the channel so that you get notified of future videos, and I'll see you in the next one.